All right, so it seems as if we are live. We are live, we are live, and ready to go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Happy International Women's Day to all the phenomenal, bold, empowered, outspoken, courageous, independent women that have joined us for this night, well, tonight's forum. And of course, it's International Women's Day. Women all around the world are just celebrating their achievements in the social space, economics, business, technology, science, sports, etc. And of course, my name is Brithney Clarke, and I have the pleasure of being your hostess with the mostest on this special occasion brought to you by the Elsa Leo-Rhynie Off Campus Committee. So I'd like to formally welcome you all this time to the International Women's Day Forum under the theme, Let's Get Real. It's 2021. Right? And we know the little saying that everyone has going on now, 2021, as in WON, just to show how much we've conquered the year that was 2020. Now, this evening will be a very insightful one. I have some lovely panelists lined up who will guide us in the discussion. Of course, I'll be a part of the panel as well, just to discuss some stuff, some topics, some issues surrounding International Women's Day, women's achievements, women's rights, and all of that. So, as I mentioned, and before I introduce them, I actually want to give you guys a bit of an overview of what to expect for this evening. So, as I said, it's going to be very insightful, very engaging, very just awesome. It's going to be an amazing night. Now, just to break it down for you, we're going to be speaking a bit about the situation of Trinidad and Tobago, females experiencing violence and abuse. What does being a woman in 2021 look like? We'll be doing a bit of a reflection, then versus now, and in relation to the societal changes that led to a shift in the norms and values of what it meant and what it means now to be a woman, and a look at each of the panelists' fields and any hacks or tips that they would leave with our young girls watching, or young women watching, or ladies, everyone here with us, just to see, what kind of advice do they have? How do we be now a 2021 woman? How is that image different from, back in the 90s, back in the 80s, back in the 70s? So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our wonderful panelists for this evening. So I'll start with Professor Elsa Leo-Rhynie. So Elsa Leo-Rhynie is a retired Jamaican academic and university administrator who is a professor emerita of the University of the West Indies, UWI. So she's a former principal and a pro-vice chancellor of the UWI Mona campus. And in July 2017, she was awarded the UWI Chancellor's Medal for the first woman to receive the honor and only the sixth recipient overall. That's amazing. So feel free to, send a round of applause, just celebrate the excellence of Professor Elsa Leo-Rhynie. Our other panelist is Ms. Chanelle Zamore, an active medical student and a proud woman from Trinidad and Tobago. She exemplified the meaning of being a queen when she was crowned Miss Elsa Leo-Rhynie for the year 2019-2020. She is also an active advocate against the violence against women in her home country of Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, we're celebrating Chanelle as well. And we have none other than Christina Williams, last but definitely not least. She is a first generation graduate of the University of the West Indies and former UWI Mona Guild president for 2019-2020. Christina is an ambassador in every right, as she serves in her capacity as a UNESCO ambassador and a policy specialist and an advocate at the Caribbean Youth Council, among others. Known to be a trailblazer, serving with a heart for the people, Christina Williams. So just asking you all to join me in welcoming these phenomenal ladies, Professor Elsa Leo-Rhynie, Chanelle Zamore, and Christina Williams. So I'm not seeing them here with me at the moment, but ladies, if you can hear me, just, give me some acknowledgement. Hi, Chanelle. I see Chanelle popping up. How are you doing? Right. I see my ladies joining me. How are you all doing this evening?
I'm good. I can't complain.
Good. Professor Leo-Rhynie, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm
Good.
good. Great.
Good. And Christine, are you here with us? All right. Not hearing from Christina just yet. But of course, we want to. I hope Christina is not having some, technical difficulty. We know how the new normal is, guys. Technology and stuff. We're still adjusting, but we're getting there slowly but surely. So, as I mentioned, we have a lot to discuss tonight, and pretty much we're going to be dividing it into segments, and we'll be taking some questions from our audience, just to kind of ensure that it's engaging, that it's energetic. We're getting all the feedback and all the energy from the discussion. So we'll have segment one, but I want to wait on Christina a little bit. So I just want you ladies to tell me first, Chanelle, just tell me what, of course, we know that the theme this year is choose to challenge. And they have this little thing where you cup your arm and you say, I choose to challenge. So I'll give you like 5 seconds to think about it. And then tell me what it is that you are choosing to challenge today and for 2021 as a woman.
I choose to challenge the glass ceiling. I feel like as a woman, we have to speak about the glass ceiling every time we speak about being a woman. So I choose to challenge the glass ceiling. So we no longer have to speak about that in years to come.
Good. And Professor Leo-Rhynie, what do you choose to challenge this year?
Hi, Chanelle. How are you? Nice to see you.
I am good, Prof. I missed you.
Yes, yes. I have to send virtual hugs to you and also to Brithney.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't do it in person. Well, at my age, the challenges are very few, very limited. As someone once said, my future is behind me. But, but I think I choose to challenge the stereotype of being someone who is past it and no longer has anything to offer, and to challenge that stereotype as I get older and to continue doing things that hopefully can make a difference.
Nice. Thank you, ladies, both. And for me, I also, well, I agree with both you ladies, challenging that glass ceiling, challenging the stereotypes. Because we always hear about the generational gaps and all of that. But I pretty much think that all of us can learn from each other. We have so much wisdom to learn from the generation before us. And so much, the generation before us can learn from us with the development of technology and all of that. So that's good. So for me, I would say I choose to challenge some of the stereotypes around, I would say, young people, young women, because I think similar to you, Professor Elsa Leo-Rhynie, a lot of people think, age and experience are really what trumps everything. But I think as a young woman, as a young person, we still have so much to offer. And if sometimes these persons would just listen to us and listen to our ideas, we can be a lot more productive in society. So I'm still not seeing Christina, but hopefully she joins us soon. So I'm gonna get into the discussion now because I know that's what our users on social media and stuff want to see. So we're in the first segment now, and the main question, of course, I think this is what everybody would want to know. Why do you think it's important to celebrate International Women's Day? Why do we need to recognize and celebrate International Women's Day? And Professor Leo-Rhynie, I'll start with you.
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get you to see this. I don't know if everybody will be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
You won't be able to see it in detail, but you will get an idea, and I'll just speak about it in a minute.
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is a. I should take it far back so that you can see the.
Yes.
This is a picture that was painted by an Indian boy. Ajunath Sindhu Vinayal. He's an 8th grader from India whose father told him that his mother did not work. Now, he drew what he saw her and other women in his community doing. And that picture I showed you is really a collage of women's activities, of women cooking, cleaning, washing and ironing, doing childcare, caring for animals, chickens, cows, marketing, gardening, a whole host of activities, all collaged together in this one picture. It ended up as the cover page of the Indian government's 2021 gender report depicting women's unpaid work. The young man received an international award for his for his artwork. And unfortunately, his mother died on November 14, 2020, and was not able to see him receive that award, fortunately. But what that painting does is it identifies at least one aspect of gender inequity, which has led to the whole business of establishing International Women's Day more than 100 years ago. We need to remember that it started as a labor movement because in 1908, 15,000 women marched in New York City, and they were demanding better pay, shorter working hours, and the right to vote. In the years following, there was recognition of Women's Day in different countries and in different ways. But the 1970s saw the rise of the women's movement. And there was a decade that those 1970s was a decade of awareness of the need for change in women's lives. In 1977, the United Nations officially recognized International Women's Day as a vehicle to create awareness of women's issues and the challenges which affected women. So we have seen change over the past 50 years. And this is to be celebrated, I think. We've seen legislative change, social change, political change, which has been fueled by women's activism through the World Women's Movement. It has changed women's status significantly and also created an enabling environment which allows for women's advancement, resulting in an increased involvement of girls and women in education and in the labor force, as well as in leadership roles. But I think that International Women's Day has become a thing where, for instance, today I have received like maybe 25 WhatsApp messages or emails saying, Happy Women's Day, have a good day. And I don't know if the message of International Women's Day is being lost and being seen as like, like Mother's Day or like, one of these other days, because it has a specific meaning and a specific role. And we ought to make sure that that is retained. I see International Women's Day more as an ongoing call to address the many, many challenges that continue to confront women, especially now in the face of contemporary issues such as climate change, COVID, all the things that are now affecting women in ways that they have been affected before, but now making it worse. So, for instance, gender-based violence is all, but with COVID, it has become worse. So, we just need to address the many challenges. So I think that International Women's Day must not lose its focus. Its focus is for women to address the many challenges that are there confronting women. And it is, yes, a day of celebration because we have had a lot of advances in the status of women, but still we must accept that there is so much more to do.
Yes. Thank you so much, Professor Leo-Rhynie. So unfortunately, Chanelle is having a bit of internet issues, so she was bounced out, but she'll be back shortly. So in relation to that now, Professor Leo-Rhynie, I know you touched on it, but how does a day like this actually impact real change? You said we need to celebrate the achievements of women, celebrate the historical, the progression of, just the developments, the achievements and all of that. But how does celebrating the day today in the midst of all these challenges that we're experiencing, how does it impact real change?
Well, I think it can if the persons involved, like you are having this session, presumably there are people who are attending this session and who will think about what is it that I can do. Because I think this is something that we have to get around to. That it is not, that this is something that someone must do. What is it I can do? And so I think that this is the message that we have to bring, that where there are challenges, we have to take up the challenge and we have to own it and we have to move with it. So I think that the more we reach out through whatever public sphere, whether it be through radio, television. I noticed today there have been radio programs which have focused on International Women's Day and women's issues. There have been discussions about women who have made a difference. The Gleaner had a newsletter today which identified women who have been trailblazers throughout the decades, various decades. So I think that that sort of awareness, building awareness, is important. But I also think it needs to go beyond that. So it can be a good marker and a good milestone to use for tracking what has gone before, but also for seeing what can I do to go forward.
Nice. Thank you so much. Chanelle, I was asking Professor Leo-Rhynie, how is it that a day like today, celebrating International Women's Day, actually impacts any real change? So Professor Leo-Rhynie's response was that, we need to take individual action to say, how can I contribute and what can I do to help enact change? So not seeing Chanelle again. Oh no. I'm not sure where she went. All right, so Professor Leo-Rhynie, it seems like we're having a little chit chat now until we're having a little one-on-one. That's perfectly fine. And Christina will be joining us a little after 8 as well. So
Okay.
more on the first segment now. So how has International Women's Day impacted you personally? Because we know that you have been, you have a lot of firsts in your career. You have a lot of personal experience. I know for some time you were also in the UK. So how exactly has, just International Women's Day or just seeing the achievements of other women impacted you personally?
Well, the thing is that there are so many women who have had a very strong influence on my own life. Whereas when I was growing up, and in fact, not until 1977, I was well on in years. So that those early years when women impacted my life, I didn't have a celebration as such, except insofar as to recognize and understand that these women were role models for me. There were people who had channeled me along certain lines. I mean, I'm talking about like my primary school teacher, my headmistress, my teachers at school, and other women with whom I've come in contact over the years. I mean, I have been very fortunate in that I have had female mentors, male as well mentors, but a lot of female mentors. And International Women's Day, I suppose, gives me an opportunity to recognize that what they have done in my life. But I haven't really sat down and said, well, International Women's Day means this to me. Because as far as I'm concerned, whenever I do see or remember these people, their impact is something which I do celebrate, even if it's by myself on my own.
Nice. Thank you very much. And all right. So, what more do you think can be done on a day like this, other than us now taking responsibility, taking action? What more do you think can be done? I mean, given the circumstances of COVID-19 and the fact that we're homebound, what do you think can be done now to just, kind of bring persons more aware about the inequality and injustice that many people are saying still exists in our society now? Yes. So, what more do you think can be done to, break down those barriers?
Well, I guess we have to use the tools that we have. For a long time, that was just radio, television. Now we have social media.
Media, yes.
If you can, even to say, well, let us devote an hour on social media within our groups, or WhatsApp groups, to just share memories of women who have made an impact in our lives. What has that impact been? How can we do the same for someone else? I mean, there are creative ways of using what we have, the technology, even in a situation like this, to help someone, because someone will see, well, she said that that lady did that for her, that woman did that for her. Maybe I can do that for someone else.
Yes.
Encouraging someone who is at home alone, and just understanding. I think also we have to understand the community of women that we are, in that we're not competitors. We are all part of a family of women, and we have to support and encourage each other. So I think that's basically where we have to go.
Well, to go, yes. All right, so Chanel, as she mentioned, she'll be joining us shortly, and Christina will be with us shortly. So I'm going to turn to social media now to see, because I see we have some men, the men feel left out. So I just want to big up all the men that are here as well who are supporting us on this International Women's Day. We haven't forgotten about you, but you guys have your day. So today is Women's Day, so thank you all for joining on the
Yes.
live. So all the men that are here, feel free to drop an emoji, just drop a kind quote and affirmation for our lovely ladies, just so we can feel special on our day. So Chanel, I see you here with us. Thank you for joining us again. All right, so before I get into segment two, I want to ask you a question in segment one. So, what more do you think? Well, firstly, how has International Women's Day and the celebrations impacted you personally? And what more do you think can be done on a day like this to highlight, how far women have come?
Okay, firstly, I would like to apologize for my Wi-Fi connection. I'm sorry for cutting in and out. If I do cut out again, I really do apologize. But personally, for me, growing up, especially in high school, Women's Day was the one day of the year where our male teachers and other teachers as well would come and give us ice cream or tell us a quote, and then we'll learn about the history of women. And for me, when I think of Women's Day and the celebration of it, the first word that comes to mind is gratitude. I feel like us celebrating this day and continuing to celebrate it to educate the little girls coming up about the day says a lot for the women who did so much for us in the past. You know, like they fought so hard for us to be where we are, for us to be able to vote, to drive, to work, have close to equal pay, And I feel like the fact that we celebrate this day is a big thank you to them, which should be happening constantly. What more I think we could do? I think we could educate someone, because I feel like a lot of women, a lot of girls especially celebrate Women's Day because okay, it's a day you could post something, you see a emoji, you see a status about it, but they're not really sure what the day commemorates, why this day itself, what's the meaning behind it. So I feel like education would always be the key to adding to not only the celebrations but to empowering of women in general, because in years to come we need to have this day even bigger than it is now. And I feel like we need to add things to the list of greatness that women have achieved so far. So I really do think education is the key.
Mute.
Brittany, you're muted, okay?
Thank you. All right, just reminding our viewers that you can always ask us questions in the chat. I'll pop in those questions as we go along. So if you have any question at all, feel free to ask in the chat. And of course, I'll direct them to our panelists. All right, so we're going to move into the second segment now and talk about, woman in the context of 2021. So, Chanel, since you missed out on a lot of the first part, I'm going to ask you first. What does being a woman in 2021 look and feel like to you?
I wish I could say positive things. But personally, for me, being a Trinidadian woman in 2021, it feels like fair. More so because of the state my country is in right now, with all the violence towards women, all the missing women. It feels worrisome. However, despite that, it also feels hopeful because I'm in a medical class with 200 odd people, and two-thirds of the people are women. So I can see a bright future for the medical field of Jamaica. It also feels like hope because of forums like these where we could speak and empower each other, and so much things in social media are pushing women to do their best to take up space. So for me, even though there are a lot against us, still is there are still a lot of things pushing us forward to do our best, and I appreciate that. So I have a mixed emotions about being a woman in 2021.
Listen, I'm getting used to the mute thing, guys. Sorry. Right. So what does being a woman in 2021 look and feel like to you, Professor Leo-Rhynie?
Boy. Well, for me, in 2021, um, as I said earlier, my future is behind me. But seriously, I have grandchildren in Chanelle's class, so you understand where I'm coming from. And I have, and my daughter is their mother, so I am grandmother for Chanelle's age group. So I can see the changes. Seriously, I can see the changes between the sorts of expectations I had for my life when I was that age, the sort of expectations my daughter had for her life when she was that age, and now their life. And as Chanelle is saying, it's a different world. When I left university, for instance, I didn't worry about getting a job. I knew that I would. I was graduating at the time when Jamaica got independence. So it was a brand new world almost. You know, suddenly we were no longer a colonial island. We were setting out on our own independence adventure. We were expected to be building our country. So it was adventurous, and we just felt that the world was our oyster, and there was no impediment to achieving what we wanted to achieve. When my daughter was that age, I think there was still that sort of anticipation, although it was tempered by the fact that things were changing. We had passed through the 70s, and in the 70s there was economic downturn, so things were not as rosy in terms of expectations for the future, and the importance of education, but also the fear of crime, which started raising its head at that time. The whole social scene changed. People were migrating. So the whole social scene was much different. You know, there was no longer that zeal for building our country, because suddenly they felt that our country wasn't really where they ought to settle themselves. So, but now I see in my grandchildren, as my granddaughter, who is in the medical class, she has hopes and fears and concerns, but still faith and an optimistic view of her future. And in all three generations, I would say, there has never been a feeling that because I am a woman, I am any less, or because I am a woman, I can't. That has been something which has been a constant across the generations. It worries me, for instance, that for the last 4 or 5 years, there have been 65% of all our graduates at UWI have been women. And yet, so although there is that obvious female educational achievement, our women are still earning less than men, 60 to 70 cents for every dollar made by men. Somehow, because they don't get the jobs that pay better. Is it that the men automatically go towards the jobs that pay more and the women don't? Why is there this disparity in terms of the pay? And also in terms of like legislation, in maternity leave, for instance. In only certain countries of the Caribbean are women given maternity leave and paid 100% of their salaries on maternity leave, where the government is concerned. In Barbados and in Belize and in Guyana, the government pays 100%. In Jamaica, it's a portion. And, so that there isn't that support. There isn't that support for women. That we need to, or young women need to realize that they are part of the sustainable development goal of having full and effective participation and decision making in public life. Elimination of violence again. And when we speak about violence, it's not just societal violence, but it's domestic violence, which also is a spin-off of women's higher education in some instances, where men feel threatened and intimidated by women who are more qualified and earning more. In a union where a woman is probably earning more than her husband, I've heard women saying, that they don't let their husband know how much they're earning because they don't want them to think that they're earning more than them because it's going to create a problem, etc., etc. Sort of thing. So I think that the life of women in 2021 is complicated, but exciting, and has challenges, but also can bring very great satisfaction if you approach it with, the attitude that, there's nothing that I can't do, and I can do it to the best of my ability.
Nice. I see Chanelle out there giving some applause. So I see some names here, I don't want our viewers to seem left out. So I see Jazz Warner, Erica Harris, Tajiri Gray, Carice Jeremy. I see Chanel Jarrett, Kareem Ismail. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Trisana Wilson, Tiana Wilson, Kofi McLeod, and Rashawn Conigan. So, guys, thank you all for being here with us. So I see Christina is here, so we're gonna bring Christina into the discussion now. So Christina, feel free to hop on over into the big room. All right. So the next question and topic I'm gonna touch on now, Professor Leo-Rhynie, is the music. Because we know that the music is it's a hot topic now in terms of what kind of contribution the music provides in terms of to crime and violence, to how persons treat women in society, to just a whole lot of things. So we see now with the music that's playing on the airwaves and stuff sometimes paint women in a more vulgar or less modest spotlight. And I would want to ask you now, what exactly are your views now on the music and the impact it's having, just in terms of how women are perceived, how women are treated in society, and just pretty much, do you think it's doing more harm than good? So I'll start with Professor Leo-Rhynie. Welcome, Christina. We're happy to have you here. Happy International Women's Day.
Hi, Christina. I can't recognize you without your fro.
Yes, I know.
Yes, just switch up on us now. So, Professor Leo-Rhynie, you can go ahead and answer.
Music is powerful. Music is very powerful. I mean, you hear and you remember. You hear and it brings back. I mean, I can even smell what my mother was cooking when I hear certain tunes. I mean, the memory is so attuned to the sound, and so I think that lyrics and the beat can be important.
Oh, Christina, can you mute your mic for me, please?
Can be very important influences on how women see themselves. We speak about identity formation. For a lot of women, their identity is all bound up in themselves as individuals as well as in their work lives, etc. And if the music is encouraging young women along a certain path, then we need to know that they understand that this is what it is doing. And I think that it can have a very detrimental effect in terms of the identities of young women and how they see themselves, whether their self-concepts and the self-esteem that they develop is something which is going to have a positive influence on their development, or whether it is going to hamper their development because they develop negative self-images, or they may develop a positive self-image in a way that is negative within the society in terms of what they decide to do with their lives. So many young women feel that, if they follow the crowd and do that, that will make them popular. So their self concept is bound up in being popular and doing this particular thing, which really doesn't help them at all. And social media has been very instrumental in creating not just music, but also norms of behavior and norm expectations of young women and how they present themselves, both in terms of dress, in terms of speech, in terms of self presentation. So I think that yes, music can have a very powerful effect, but the effect can be positive and it can be negative.
Thank you, Professor Leo-Rhynie. And since you touched on the social media, I'm gonna throw that part of it to Christina and Chanelle. How do you think social media has impacted us as young women now? I mean, I know we see where we have the influencers and everybody pretty much, we're at home. So when we're not in class or when we're not at work, we're on social media looking at everything, because I mean the new normal kind of forces us to be that way. But how, Christina, I'll start with you since you are just joining us. How do you think social media is impacting us as women in 2021?
Thank you so much, Brithney. And firstly, let me big up ELR Towers for
Oh, Christina. Okay, so Christina is bigging up ELR Towers. So if you're from ELR Towers, feel free to throw some emojis in the chat and all of that while we get Christina back. She's doing a whole heap of big up.
inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here among all, Okay, am I still here? Okay,
Yes.
great. Right. So I think it's about a positive and negative reaction or impact rather on our women. So firstly, let me go with the negative. The negative, then you put the positive after. So negatively, we find ourselves comparing, we're comparing ourselves with the images that we're seeing there. We have taken justification of our worth from the likes and the comments. So if I post a photo and I get 500 likes, and I look over to like a Brithney, so Brithney posts her nice clean photo today and she get most 1,000 odd. I mean, like, so wait. So I'm not as valued as Brithney. Everybody in the Jamaican system don't value me as much as Brithney. And then you find yourself in some very ridiculous ways too, saying, you're looking at your value and you're thinking that you're not as valued as this individual. So that's negative way. And then sometimes we find ourselves as well going to the extreme of editing our bodies or editing our personalities to try and put across this image that is not necessarily true. So we find a lot of facades on social media. We develop this, I call it the edit. I think it's the edit era that we're in. So nobody can post a photo on social media without editing something. Some kind of filter. The filter generation, the face of a filter. And most times when you look at the filters, I don't know if you guys ever looked at it. A lot of these filters, they're actually promoting, how you put it now, they're promoting Eurocentric ideals of beauty, because they straighten the nose, they make the lip get smaller, they make the eyes turn, and I'm like, but this is not what a Black woman looks like. The Black woman's beauty is not this. And they make your skin actually lighter. I don't know if you guys realize this with the filters. So there's that. And then the other thing now, in a positive sense, mind you, is that it is a platform for women to also be themselves. So I guess we won't have probably have the Terry Carell that we have now. Jamaica's, she's one of Jamaica's sweetheart. And Terry Carell
Mhm.
comes on social media and she empowers and she inspires. And little girls and young girls like myself can look on and be like, yes, I want to have this kind of positive brand in Jamaica. But I think it comes down to Brittany, it comes down to your ability to filter out the information that you see there. You
Mm-hmm.
have to take it upon yourself to say, this content is good for me. I am going to consume of this content. This content is actually bad for my negative, is negative for my psyche. I need to reduce this content. And sometimes you have to also take time off social media, where you just
Mm-hmm.
literally come off Instagram, come off Twitter, and say, listen, I'm just going to focus on maybe just more face to well, you can't do face to face now because of COVID, but you say, okay, I'm going to limit it to just some calls and some WhatsApp messages because I need time away from that space. Thank you.
Mhm. Thanks, Christina. Yes, I definitely agree with those points, especially when it comes to the edit button and the filter era. Because I see girls, beautiful girls, black girls, fair skinned girls, all kind of women that are on social media, and you see them comparing themselves. Because I witnessed this thing where it was, I think, Saturday. Someone posted a photograph, very nice looking and whatever, but you could see that it was edited, filter put over, base taking a little bit, bottom push out and all of that. And then the person was like, wow, I feel draped. I feel draped. I need to go to the gym. And then I think by Sunday evening, the girl was exercising and so, and I'm like, I don't like this, because you really, the girl is not even real. So why is it that you are, subjecting yourself to that kind of ideal, and one, it's not realistic, and two, it's just pretty much unnecessary. Like, why is it that we need to do those things to lower our standards and lower ourselves? And as I see someone here post, Shayla Reed, self-value is now determined by external sources. We need to change that, guys. Come on. Internal, believe in yourself from within, be true to yourself, and all of those things. All right, so
But
Chanelle,
in a way, though, Brittany,
yes,
we have
yes,
to recognize that that's the self confidence that will allow you to say that and do
yes,
that
true.
is not often is well it's found often, but is not always found. And
Mm-hmm.
in fact, for a lot of young women, they have to sort of use this reinforcement to validate themselves. And so them going on the doing the exercise and that sort of thing to them, this is what is going to make them valuable. And it's a shame
Mm-hmm.
that that is what is taking to try and build their confidence, rather than them having the confidence to say,
Yes,
oh, that isn't real, so why am I going to bother with that, and to
yes,
choose. I mean, our choices are so critical. What we choose to look at, what we choose to listen to, what we choose to follow, what we choose to copy, what we choose to model, our choices are critical in our lives.
yes, very true.
Prof, I love that you spoke about choices, and Christina, you as well, because this is my entire life. I felt like now that I'm 22, I find myself choosing things because I want to choose them and go this way because I want to go this way, or social media or other women, and definitely filtering out the negatives from the positive on social media is the biggest way to boost your confidence, because I have personally went through feeling so ugly, and I felt like I will never match up to this person, or I can't do certain things because only these kind of people could do these things. And when I realized the things I'm looking at on social media, I need to stop. And I took myself out of it, even the music, because we're speaking about music, so let me tie this back. The music I listened to growing up as a little girl, mommy used to play the song, You're Beautiful, every day before I go to sleep. Na, 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 na. She was singing to me, and when I got older, as a teenager going to high school, I don't want to listen to, as I used to call it, old people music anymore. I want to listen to the new hot soca, the new dancehall, or something. And when I listen to these things now, that message of you're beautiful no longer was translated. Now I'm hearing slim waist, thick thighs, I'm hearing flat stomach, I'm hearing light skin, and all those things change me at a tender age where I needed that positive reinforcement. It was no longer there. So that music, filtering out the good from the bad, is a very important thing. But I can't say, thank God. I mean, I'm not there yet, but starting this journey of self-love for the past 2 to 3 years, filtering out the good from the bad, loving my skin, my Afrocentric features, all those things has boosted my self-esteem. I started listening with people that do the same. I started looking up to women that do the same. I started following a different crowd, women with the same mindset that uplift you, because you can't be uplifted from people that don't want to be where you want to be, or go where you want to go, or think and do the things you want to do. You wouldn't be uplifted. So I'm grateful for that. And anybody listening right now, honestly, some people may say, it's a cliche, don't compare yourself, so don't, but you can't help yourself if you keep seeing it every day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're seeing this person and you're getting this message and you're listening to this song every day, you will compare yourself. It's not you're gonna try hard. No, you just need to get rid of them, filter them out, make a positive choice to say, okay, no, I'm going to do this, listen to this, look at this lady, listen. It really will help now and in time to come. So yeah.
Thank you, ladies. All right, so I'm just gonna read some comments here before I move to the next question, because it seemed like that particular question and the responses resonated with our viewers. So I see Kareem Medley says, yes, sometimes a detox can be very beneficial. Taking a little social media break and all of that. Yes, very important. Latonya Clayton says, yes, we have to be careful what we're feeding ourselves. Very true. I see Sedana says it's the mind that needs rewiring. And Shayla Reed says social media gives us exposure to both the good and the bad. But the key thing is that it promotes choice. As women, we now have examples of various ways we live our lives and be more confident with our choices. And it's a subconscious thing. So that's some of the feedback from social media. And it seems like, they're pretty much here with us in terms of our views and objectives. So it is said now that society has progressed rather with time, and it's very good that we have Professor Leo-Rhynie here with us, because Professor, you have seen a little more than we have. So how would you say society has progressed? Like, do you think it has progressed, exponentially, or do you think it's just minor progressions? How is now different from then?
It's very different in some ways and very much the same in other ways. So, for instance, legislative change has allowed for difference. In when I had my second child in 1968, there was no such thing as maternity leave. I mean, I'm talking no such thing as maternity leave. I was a teacher. I left school in June for the summer holidays. My son was born in August, and I was expected back at school in September. And I went back a week late, I think. I was either a week or 2 weeks late, because there was no such thing as maternity leave. I had a friend who worked at a bank, one of our commercial banks, and she got pregnant in 1969, and she had to resign. She was not allowed to continue working in the bank in her pregnant state. Teachers, an unmarried teacher who became pregnant, had to resign, because that was not the model that was supposed to be presented to young children, unmarried teachers. So teachers had to resign if they became pregnant while on the job. So the legislation which allows for not just maternity leave with pay, all of these legislations came into being in the 1970s. for instance, a child born out of wedlock in the 1970s was labeled illegitimate. That is not legal. Can you imagine you having your child and being told that the child is not legal? And well, that's the word. The word that was used was bastard, right? So in 1976, there was the Status of Children Act, and that word was eliminated from the vocabulary in Jamaica. So no child was to be called illegitimate. And the big sign that went around was no more bastard there. No bastard there. But the point is that up until that time, there was this stigma which was attached to a child who had only a mother, but not a father on their birth certificate, or whose parents were common law union, but not married, and therefore was labeled illegitimate because their parents were not married. So from that angle, women's status has improved in that way. And of course, as women have qualified themselves through education, they have been able to step into jobs which were previously held by men. When I started doing research in the 1970s, in all faculties, the graduates were more male than female. And it wasn't until the 1980s that we started seeing parity between men and women. And believe it or not, this created great consternation. One of our professors wrote a book called The Marginalization of the Black Male. And it was felt that women were advancing too fast and that the Black male was going to be marginalized. That was big news at the time. And so I think that women have progressed over time. But the point is that there have, instead of blatant, open expressions of the patriarchy, it has become more subtle. So, for instance, you will get a man and a woman. I mean, it was so bad that a woman could not go into a bank and get a loan. She had to have her husband's approval. He had to approve her getting the loan. And she could not sign for certain things unless he signed as well. So this made it difficult, for instance, for single women to start a business because they couldn't get a loan, because they didn't have a male to co-sign with them, unless they had a father who was in that position, that sort of thing, because a woman was not allowed to access credit. So as I say, we have women who have made their mark on the political scene, who fought for suffrage and the vote, and therefore women who were able to enter politics. And we have a number of those women. We finally had our first female prime minister. But, you know, these things do take time. And it's not going to happen in one fell swoop. We now have persons calling for legislation that we must go for 50-50 in parliament and that sort of thing. And, you know, there are the persons who are saying you can't legislate that because you want the most competent people. But then why are the most competent people always men? You know, so we need to consider all of these issues when we talk about equity, gender equity. So basically, we have seen advances which are quite remarkable, given what used to be in 1960 something. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we haven't seen as many. Shayla, I fully agree with you. A win for women should not be seen as a loss for men. Yes, but you see, men become very intimidated and feel that they are yielding something. I remember a dean of the Faculty of Medical Sciences, who is now deceased, telling us when we were trying to introduce women's studies in the UWI, to telling us, listen, men are not going to yield power to women. You're going to have to fight for it, and we are going to fight back.
Yep.
And that's the truth, you
Nice.
know?
That's a good note to end on, actually, because we have to fight back and choose to challenge is the theme for this year's
Yeah.
International Women's Day. So really, just challenging the status quo, challenging the glass
Yeah.
ceiling that Chanel spoke about, challenging the notion that, as Shayla says, a win for women should people perceive it as a loss for men. It's not everybody can win. There's space
Yeah.
at the top of the ladder for all of us, right? So I know now too that in this time we've been seeing a lot of discussion around some of the more controversial topics. And Chanel, I'll start with you because I've seen on your social media you become very vocal about the matter of gender-based violence, especially with what's going on in Trinidad. So can you kind of paint a picture of what exactly is happening, back home for you, and how important is it now for more women to speak up about gender-based violence, just domestic abuse, rape, trafficking, all of those things. And just before you start, I'll read this quote, well, the statistic from the World Health Organization, which says 1 in every 3 women experience physical or sexual violence in their lifetimes, and that's according to the World Health Organization. And this includes domestic abuse, rape, sexual trafficking, gender based violence, and of course, it denies many women of the opportunity to live happy, healthy, and fulfilling lives. So, this is an alarming statistic, 1 in every 3, right? So, Chanel, just you can go ahead and speak on this.
This topic gets me emotional every time I speak about it. And recently, I have become vocal because I find it alarming that we are silent. For all these years, I find it alarming that you can have a friend, a neighbor, somebody who you know has been abused. You yourself can be abused and be silent. Now, the number one reason I believe, though, for the silence is shame. And victim shaming is a huge thing in today's society. From the time you accuse a man of doing something that isn't right or isn't righteous, his male counterparts will say, "Okay, well, what were you wearing? What you did to provoke him to lash you or rape you?" Or and this is a topic I could go on about, but I want to paint the picture of what's happening in Trinidad. Um, Imagine, Professor Riney, imagine you raise your daughter, barely turned 18, she barely turned 18, and all of you are going to grandma's home for her birthday party. And she jumps in a taxi, says, "Mommy, I will see you by grandma," never comes home. Never comes home, you'll have searches, you'll look everywhere, you call her friends, her family, only to find her scalped in a river behind your home, with the autopsy saying that she was raped, beaten, and she was fighting back. And with her fighting back, they stabbed her about her body, they hit her with bats, they found the most gruesome ways to kill this young lady. And her name is Ashanti Riley. And I want to call their names because a lot of people treat them like they weren't people. They weren't somebody's daughter, they wasn't somebody's friend. Most recently, we have Andrea Barrett coming from work in the justice system, working hard for the country, trying to better the country and its fix its flaws, and jumps in a taxi with her friend in work clothes. So where's the excuse of what she was wearing? That is eliminated. Then she went with her friend. So you can't say she wasn't diligent. She was alone and she wasn't looking at us. She was with her friend. The friend lives a street from her house. The friend was dropped home safe. She never returned. She never returned home. Her mother died years before. Her father is distraught just to find her after getting a ransom call saying that she's alive. All this time, this young lady is dead, dumped in bushes. I and these two cases especially hit hard for me because Andrea is 22. She graduated from UB last year, That could easily be me. Work so hard for this degree, go into the system to work for my country and better the country itself, and then I get murdered, I get adopted and murdered, God forbid, but it hit home. It really hit home. And I feel like I personally couldn't sit and not speak about it anymore. And I got upset midway speaking about it because at one point in time, it became a trend. A lot of people found it trendy to support women and gender-based violence, and they'll put hashtags and they'll post pictures for all of a week. And after that week, we forget all about Andrea. We forget about Ashanti. We forget about Nicole. We forget about, you understand, Shannon. And I want to call their names because these are women that were alive and breathing and they were snatched from us. And I find it disgusting. And we had in Trinidad, we had a big uprising in December when this happened with Ashanti. Literally a month after, in January, the same thing came and happened with Andrea, and nothing was done. No change, nothing happened. People cried. We had one senator went as far as to say crocodile tears on the pavement wouldn't help the woman of Trinidad and Tobago. And a lot of people took offense by that because what are we to do as citizens? What do you want us to do? Jungle justice is illegal. So we can't take these men and kill them. And then the other thing that was bothering me too is that all the perpetrators of these crimes were hidden. People were actively hiding them in the community. So are we really
Women too.
serious?
Women too.
Yeah. Their mothers, their aunties, their girlfriends, their wives. Last man, Mr. Deacon, I didn't want to call him Deacon because he don't Mr. because he doesn't deserve that respect. He was Andrea's murderer, and his wife was hiding him. He has children, and I question: are we really serious about ending gender-based violence? Are we really serious? Because we have so much missing women. Look at listen, I can't getting into this really upsets me, but I'm not sure how we could go about it. But personally, for me, I just want to keep saying their names as often as I can. I want to post as often as I can, remind everybody that they're not a trend. Their death wasn't a trend for January, and then February we look for something new, or March we look for something new. It's not a trend. It's not something to celebrate. It's a problem. It's a problem, and it wouldn't affect you until it hits home. Until your mother, your daughter, your sister goes missing, it wouldn't affect you. So I really, personally for me, I'm doing my little parts by speaking about it. I'm happy that the little video I did went places. A lot of people knew what was happening and it brought spotlight. So it pressured high people in governments to do something. So right now they're looking at revising some laws, changing some things, and I appreciate that. But I think everybody could do their little part by speaking about it. The more we keep speaking about it, the more people become bothered. Because watching it on your phone from a distance, you're unbothered. But when you speak about it and you constantly say, come to think about it, the gruesome murder that they went through, then you start to feel, okay, yeah, I could put myself in that situation. I could feel what she was feeling at that point in time. I could feel for her mother. I could feel for her dad, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my message to you.
Thank you so much, Chanelle, and thank you for the role that you're playing, in the advocacy in terms of posting frequently, speaking up about it, consistently saying their names. Yeah, it's very important that we continue doing that. So, Christina, for you now, I have a question on reproductive health because, and I want you to add to that as well if you have anything. But we know that this is another hot topic. So, people are speaking particularly about period poverty and abortions. Now, I'm not sure how comfortable you are speaking on the latter, but if you wish to add on that. But I have a statistic here to read again. So it says 225 million women in developing countries have an unmet need for family planning, contributing to 74 million unplanned pregnancies and 36 million abortions every year. So, according to figures cited by Women Deliver, a women's advocacy group, and well, those were the statistics. So, helping women take charge of their baby making reduces unsafe abortions and maternal deaths by over 70% each, and conserves precious resources that would otherwise have gone towards pregnancy related costs. So this is on the topic of unplanned pregnancies and the abortion debate. Now, what are your views on that debate? And in relation to period poverty, what are your views on that? And Professor Leo-Rhynie, if you wish to add afterwards, you may.
Okay. All right. So let me go with the most uncontroversial point of that, which is period poverty. It's funny because I just spoke about this another event I did before this one, and I spoke about the fact that when we talk about quality education, we tend to forget that quality education is accessed when not just the fact of you accessing school is available, but this is also fast sense in the sense, I don't know why is it as soon as I start talking the video is not is acting up, but in the sense that you are a young girl and you are attending school, and then you have to sit out 5 days, depending on how long your menstrual cycle is. You sit out 5 days because you're unable to afford sanitary products. Now, when we look at the emphasis that we place on safe sex and we place on condom usage, and we provide condoms at a subsidized cost or even free, versus a health process of a woman, of a young girl, that is not her choice. You can choose to have sex, but you cannot choose to have your menstrual cycle. And so we see the emphasis placed on condoms and those kind of contraception versus the priority placed on women and bodily functions that they cannot control. And we're seeing where there's a dissonance, there's a disconnect. And we definitely have period poverty in Jamaica. I mean, when you think about, brands like Always and Libres. I remember when I was growing up in Portland, I couldn't afford Always and Libres. I have to hold my curves. If I hold a curve and I go home, you understand? And even though sometimes women may find themselves allergic to the artificial cotton, they can't do better because they can't afford the products that have as you said, the natural cotton, right? And you see that. And we have constantly had persons calling out for some kind of relief in that regard. And I have to pick up in different groups who tend to have like outreach programs where they bring in products, bring it for homes and wards of the state to help relieve. But there are lots of young people, especially those within like inner city areas and rural areas, who need support with sanitary products. Then we move towards abortion. And let me not even say abortion, let me just say the overall body autonomy of women. Now, I like to integrate history into whatever I talk about, because you can never talk about the present without history. The truth is that the abortion clause was developed. It's a slavery clause. It's a remnant of slavery, where they wanted to control the reproductive rights of the enslaved woman, because they wanted to ensure that there would always be a provision of free labor on the plantation, right? People keep talking about Christianity, etc. When you look at some of the most Christian societies, right? A society like Barbados is a lot more Christian, is a lot less secular than Jamaica. And Barbados has legalized, they have decriminalized abortion for 30 odd years. I think it's 38 years.
Yeah.
So what exactly is the excuse? And a lot more other Christian societies, with a lot less crime. I am dropping the shade there.
Yes.
A lot less crime. They have provided provisions for women to be able to access legal and safe abortions. Now, people get into them feelings and they talk a lot about, it's a murder of a child. No, I won't even quote my opinion. Let me just use the law because I'm doing law at UWI now. So let me use up my degree. The Jamaican law criminalizes abortion where you can get a maximum penalty of life imprisonment and doctors can get a maximum penalty of 3 years. No, that's how they recognize the fetus, as, that if you terminate the fetus, then you have committed murder. But it's funny because when you look at the murder, when you look at the Offenses Against the Persons Act, the law of Jamaica does not recognize fetus if you kill a mother. If you kill a mother and the child and she's pregnant, it's not a crime of murder.
Exactly.
The law does not, they call it rerum natura. The law does not recognize the fetus as rerum natura. It's not, unless its umbilical cord is cut and the child breathes on its own, separate from the mother, it does not recognize that fetus as alive, as a human being. So, without even mentioning my stance, I'm just showing you that the law itself is not even standardized.
Yes,
and even though the statute criminalizes abortion, the common law does not. It provides a situation where a doctor can reasonably make the decision to terminate a pregnancy where a woman's life is at risk. So I am simply saying, this is just what I have to say without even putting my opinion there, that the law needs to become standardized and there needs to be provisions where a woman is able to take actions that's for her health, both physical and mental. Because you cannot say to somebody who has been raped that you must carry that child to term. You cannot say to a woman who that child is going to kill her, right? That she has to carry that child to term. Nobody, I would never, personally, this is personally no, I would never advocate for abortion on demand. Barbados does not provide that either. A lot of countries does not provide abortion on demand. I would never advocate for that, but I definitely think that there's circumstances where a woman should be allowed to terminate a pregnancy by a licensed medical professional. And let me just integrate something here. This whole argument, about period poverty and this whole argument about body autonomy and even outside abortions, just the fact that, women, don't get a lot of support in terms of, certain health, because outside of just even sexual and reproductive health, we look at the hospitals and women going in with pregnancies and how they're treated at hospitals. Unless you're able to afford private care, Black women, we tend to be victims a lot to a very racist health system. I'm sorry, but I mean no words. And that is why women will tell you, I prefer to go to a doctor that is Black. Or I prefer to go to a doctor that is private where I can manage that, because our health system is flawed. It's racially flawed, and it is economically flawed in the sense that if you're not okay, it's loading, right? Political and social strata, you will not get proper health care. You have Black women who go into health centers and they're told they can't take the pain. The pain not as bad. There are Black women who have been misdiagnosed or are not diagnosed at all because they think that Black women, because we're strong and Black, because we're strong and Black, we should be able to have a higher pain tolerance or higher pain threshold. These are real issues affecting Black women. So it shows you how patriarchy pervades every single system. And remember now, ladies and gentlemen, patriarchy is not male. In the sense that patriarchy is not just about a man. Patriarchy is a system, because even women perpetuate patriarchy in terms of health. And I just want to add this final point before you jump over to Prof. Promiscuity. Whenever we talk about abortions, a lot of times the thing come about, if you allow abortions, you're going to increase the rate of promiscuity. More women are going to go out there and have sex. More women are going to have unprotected sex, whatever. But I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that many times abortions, the reason women want abortion is because we have approximately 22,000 abortions per year. Majority of this is by women under 16. Let that sink in. Let me use Minister
So,
Tough Times point. Let that sink in. It means that women or little girls are actual victims of sexual abuse. It's not because women out there having unprotected sex. You're raping our girls and impregnating them and then forcing them to keep keeping the babies to term.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember when I worked on the reintegration of teenage mother policy, because once upon a time, a girl had to literally beg her school to have her come back to readmit her. And working with, at the time, Minister of Education, Ronnie Thwaites, we said, not again. You must allow this girl back to school. We had to do an entire policy on that. Right? And then we talk about as well that, so we're having all these girls who are victims to sexual abuse, right? That's actually a part of it. And then we talk about low condom negotiation. So because our women are not financially empowered, women tend to become reliant on men for their daily survival. And as a result, the man can say to her, listen, if you love me and if you want me to take care of you and the children, you can't use condom with me. Because if you're using condoms, it shows that you have an next man. And so people would never think about the intricacies that affects our women when it comes on to body autonomy. But I will leave it here for now and allow Prof to add her response. Prof to add her response.
Yeah, I think the whole issue is body autonomy. Who owns our bodies? Do we own our bodies? And the point is, I think it is Shayla who just wrote a message saying that the fact that abortion is legalized doesn't mean that you have to have an abortion.
Exactly.
What we need to do is to have a law which allows someone who has a genuine case for abortion to be able to do so safely, legally, without damage to herself and her mental state. Because what happens now is that when it is done, and it is done illegally, there is the fear, there is the anxiety, there is the possibility of all sorts of repercussions. And also, if it is not done properly, may deny that woman the chance to even have control over her body again, because she will have lost so much of her reproductive parts. So many women have had to have hysterectomies after a botched abortion. So, I think it is important for us to understand that making abortion legal is not a sort of thing where, okay, run outside and get pregnant. It doesn't matter. You can just get rid of it. It isn't that. It is just allow women to have control over their bodies and to say, this is something which I need to have done safely and effectively. The fact that the statistic you mentioned about the young teenagers who are pregnant, their whole lives are being blighted. And very often the men who get them pregnant are just not even there, not around to assist with the care of this child. So it falls on a mother or an auntie or someone else. And what happens then with that cycle? Where is that? Where does that child go? I was involved many years ago with a project called the Teenage Mothers Project. It was stationed in Maypen, and it was so interesting to speak to those mothers. It's similar to the Women's Center in Kingston, where mothers can continue their education, and the Women's Center provides a nursery for them for the babies, and also helps them. When you speak about a young woman getting pregnant, I know that when I was married and got pregnant, I was frightened. I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't have the concern about not being married or about being a single mother and not knowing where to go. But it is still a change in your body which you have never experienced before, and therefore it's frightening. And also the whole business of a life that you now have to assume responsibility for forever. Trust me, forever. So the point is that I think that the matter of choice, giving a woman a choice for safe and effective abortion, is something which every civilized society should have in place.
Yes, thank you, ladies.
Heard someone say that they hear the people who are against abortion are not seeing how the children are to be reared. When we produce these children, who helps to take care of them? Who helps to bring them up so that the cycle is stopped? What happens to them? You know, so we need to realize that the whole business of body autonomy has to be rethought and has to be properly legislated.
Excellent
Prof,
point, lady.
as you said that, I saw a quote today saying, those people that's bothered by abortion ignore abortion the same way foster kids are ignored. And that's pretty deep because when we figure out what to do with the children that's already here, that's
Yeah,
alive and well
yes.
and misplaced, then we can talk about abortion. But before then, I don't think that should even be a conversation. We have so many children without parents, without a proper future.
It's it, but the bottom line though is that women are still seen as either the property of a man or the property of the state. They are not seen as being truly adult and able to take care of themselves and to make decisions about themselves, their bodies, their lives. That is the bottom line.
That's so true. Ladies, excellent points. And these are issues that we need to continue to speak out on, speak up on, join the Twitter conversation. You don't necessarily have to give your opinion, but you can speak from fact, like Christina here with the law facts and all that.
Yes, yes.
Yes, so I mean, like some persons may not be so willing to pick a side per se, but when you reason it out and look at the facts and look at the historical progressions, then really and truly you see that you see where the better decision lies. So just gonna read a few more comments, and we're gonna get into the third segment, which is a bit of reflection. So Shayla Reed here says the lack of consciousness amongst the women understanding our value or need to support others because a struggle for one woman is a struggle for all women and it's really hindering our progress. I see Jody Prendergast says, as women, we are faced with so many challenges. I see, guys, the comments are really live, right? Brianna Russell says, girl, if you want me to change my degree to law, just say that. Oh, gosh, that's for you, Christina. I see Sheila again says they need to know that the legalization of abortion doesn't mean that everybody is going to do it either. And I see Abigail Nancool rather, sorry, says women should be free to choose what they do with their bodies, period. Yes, so the comments are coming in. I see Kareem Medley or Mail in the house says, I find it interesting that persons will say God says it's wrong, however, God didn't take away our will to choose. So why should our laws choose for us? Interesting point there, Kareem. All right, so Christina bounced off again, but we know the new normal, guys. She'll be back. Oh, there she is. All right, so we're doing some reflection now, wrapping up, and we'll be taking some questions. Christina, I know you have to head out. So our third segment says, what advice would you give to an 18-year-old version of you and the rest of our female audience watching? So, what would you tell your younger self at the prime of your womanhood when you're just, really turning 18, you're official, well, you're legal here in Jamaica. What advice would you give to your younger self, especially, given the state of things now, state of affairs now? So I'll start with Christina since you have to leave. Then I'll do Chanelle and then Professor Leo-Rhynie.
All right, thank you so much, Britt. Okay, I think I would tell myself firstly that there's a lot for you to learn and a lot for you to also unlearn. I grew up within the context of rural Jamaica where there were a lot of toxic socialization that happened. I mean, my parents, my father, I grew up with my daddy. And my daddy, I think my father is the first man I met who's a feminist. My father was the one who told me that nothing wrong with a man washing a woman panty. I'm sorry for the guys here who probably gonna be like, oh, what you talking about? But yes, my father was the first one who said that. My father was the first one who talked to me about periods and said there's no reason to be ashamed admitting that you bleed. Right? But then outside of my father, there were still some things within the environment that I also had to unlearn, in terms of what my limitations were as a leader, how far I could go, and hope and if how much levity I would give to what people thought of me as a woman. And I think I'd also tell myself that there are different definitions of a woman. I mean, Prof is an excellent definition of a woman, and I can look at her and I can pull, attributes from her to see, how she became principal. And we know, Prof, the circumstances around that, but I can still look at your story and pull from that. But even though I may take lessons from Prof's journey, I still have to become my own woman. And I still have to understand that this journey for me will be different, and I have to chart my own process. I think I would tell my younger self that there's no need to worry too much about trying to become perfect, because it's a process. And we're learning and learning as we go through. And I think I'd also finally tell myself as well that just love yourself, no girl. Just love yourself, man. The big afro nappy head, years and more them gonna love off your afro. So you don't have to worry about that, right? And your black skin and everything, and you don't need to pull any kind of validity from what people think and from any kind of Eurocentric ideal of beauty. And I think I'll just tell myself that. I'll just kind of boost up myself and speak some good things over my life and just teach myself to manifest things that I want. Because wherever I go in life, there are always going to be challenges. But as we said, I choose to challenge. I choose to wake up every single day and challenge all the gender biases, stereotypes, all the negative connotations about women, Black women, rural women, all the different intersectionalities that there is. I choose to challenge every single day. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you,
Great.
Christina. Christina, don't leave us just yet. I'm just inviting persons. If you have any questions for Christina, I'm going to hold on to her for just a few more minutes. So if you have any
Right.
questions, you can drop them in so I can throw them to her. So Chanelle, it's your turn, and then Prof. Leo-Rhynie.
I would tell myself, stop being quiet. Don't let them silence you. If you want to sit at the table and they're not making space, build your own table. You are here, you are enough, you are beautiful, and you deserve every good thing that's coming your way. So continue going. That's what I would tell myself and everybody listening.
All right, Prof, we're ready for your gems now.
James. It's funny. When I was asked to be part of this panel, I just was looking through some of my papers, and I found a message I prepared for International Women's Day in 2000. That's 21 years ago. That's when you were 1 year old, Chanelle. I just want to read one little piece of it to say to you that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Right? This was the year 2000, and this was what I wrote. The new century poses many challenging issues for Jamaican women, chief among which are the issues of poverty, gender-based violence, and the establishment of gender equity in all aspects of national life. The crucial element in addressing these issues is a commitment to the ongoing change process in our country at the levels of research, policy making, development and project planning, decision making, and implementation of interventions. The involvement of women in the process of identifying solutions to the problems we all face, and in the development of plans for the implementation of these solutions is vital. Now, I think that I've just read it, and it will be perfectly relevant today, which is 21 years later. And so I think that my 18-year-old self, what I would have told my 18-year-old self, is that I don't need to hurry. I think that I thought that I would be old at 25. And I wanted to do everything immediately. It had to be done. I had to get it over. 30 was old. What am I waiting? What am I? You don't have to hurry. You can take it timely and do just what is going to make you the person you are. Look at all facets of your life, all facets of your development, and learn from every experience. Every single experience has something to teach, whether you accept or whether you reject. It's a learning process. And what you may not see the value of today, in another 3 years, you say, if I hadn't had that experience, I would not have had and would not have been able to cope with this or to make that choice from such an informed base. And so you have to just take your time and follow your path. I think that as young women who are in a position to make a difference, I think your involvement is important. And I think it's important for you to accept yourself and to know where you're going. But I think that you also have to recognize that you have the power to bring about change. It's very easy. I mean, you take for granted things like what I was talking about, like things like maternity leave and things like all the various other things that are now possible for you. But I think that you have power. And just in the same way as you recognize the period poverty of some girls, you recognize the abortion debate, you recognize the gender-based violence, you recognize these issues, and you're trying to do things to address them. That is the power that you have to create change, to make a difference, so that 20 years from now, the issues may well be still there, but not to the same extent, and that there has been action taken to make a difference in those areas. So this is where I would challenge you. I mean, the world is different. We have technology, we have different roles, different careers, all sorts of different things. But basically, activism, zeal, energy to address the issues of significance for women today, that is where I would like to see you accept those challenges and to make further changes to change the structures of male privilege and patriarchy, which invade all areas of life. And so work in the local, in the national, in the regional, and even internationally, because many of you will go on to work in international areas, but wherever you go, to be able to say, I can make a change. I have the power to make a change.
Thank you, ladies, for those. Well, I'll say gems. I call them gems because we really need these messages now. So, just to summarize, we don't have to hurry. There are things we have to learn and unlearn. Don't be silent. You have the power to bring about change, and the more things change, the more they remain the same. So, of course, you have to challenge the status quo a bit and push beyond our limits in order to, see the change that we want to experience. So, Christine, I know you have to run. So I see two questions here, but they're kind of asking the same thing, so I'm gonna mush them together. So from
Okay.
Kareem and Shayla, it says, did you face any pushback in your run for presidency or as a student leader on the basis of your gender? And how did you overcome, or how did it affect your experience?
Okay. All right. So I was the seventh of 70, so 70 presidents and seventh woman. And that already tells you a lot about what I was facing right there. And at the time, I was running against two males who were competent in their own right. And so it became a gendered competition. So it was like, can she manage, she's the guild secretary, she never earn her stripes, she never work her way up where she a run and go now, and she probably can handle the university space and yada yada yada. So that was definitely an issue for me. But you know what I think? I think it was because of my femininity, and I think women should embrace and celebrate their femininity. There's power in it. I think because of my femininity, I was able to be so effective because I felt so connected to the students that I served, and I took on this old motherly role, and I became Mama C and all different identity right there. I always went the extra mile for students. And so when we had the 70-year-old policy about health card, right, that you could not access healthcare you could only access healthcare at the health center, and you couldn't go anywhere else. And certain situations you could go to the UE hospital. And when we were able to revise that policy, and when we were able to reduce the registration by 99%, people looked on in awe, and I was like, how the girl had that? I not understand it, because I had a unique flavor to the leadership, which was my femininity. And I never tried to distance myself from it and try to be like a man. I never tried to be like a man leader. I was a woman leader, and I was proud in that. And I utilized my strengths. So, but generally speaking, though, you find a lot of times people look at you and say, yeah, man, she can't run off the thing as a secretary, man. She can run off the thing as a VP, because once a man is in charge. But the very minute you decide to break the mold and decide that you want to lead, to be the ultimate, them find a bag of issues. So them never have an issue when you are supporting, They never have an issue when you are following. But the very minute you begin to say, as Chanelle say, I take on the voice now, not to be silent. I want to lead. People are like, I'm not sure about this now, But, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. There's a purpose in all of us. Even for the guys here, there's a purpose in all of us. And regardless of whatever challenges may come, you have to take on the belief that you are deserving of that particular role. So I told myself, listen, if the students don't want me, they will not vote for me. Simple. But I am not going to self-sabotage. I'm not going to reject myself in service of students. And then here I am, former guild president, and I'm grateful for the experience. Thank you.
Very good, very good. And you see, this is something that people don't understand, that the leadership style that women bring is different. It is, as she said, as Christina said, she became the mother, she was like the mother role. And the fact that she had a different style, which was appealing to, and that what she was able to do was something which brought changes to their lifestyle, to their, and these are the things that make women, I think, more successful in leadership. Whereas with men, it's very often the sort of autocratic, aggressive, directive type of leadership. But good for you.
Yes, thank you so much, Christina. We saw your work, we see your legacy, we see you making strides. We see you with your law degree. You're gonna excel in that field as well. Just wherever you go, we know you're gonna just do great. And then all of us are gonna be in the back like, hey, that's my friend. I know her. So yeah,
we knew her.
Yeah, yes. So we're proud of you, and we're proud of the moves and the strides that you're making. And I just want to wish you all the best on your endeavors. I know you have to leave. I don't see any other questions for you. So, thank you for being here. And I hope you enjoyed
Thank you so much. Once again, big up ELR Towers. All right, bye-bye.
All the best.
Right. I'll see you in a few minutes, Christina.
Yes, I see.
All right. So, Prof. Leo-Rhynie, I see you were making your points as well, and I see some questions here for you. The one I see here from Kareem says, do you have any tips on how, as a man or as men, they can do better, we can do better at taking care of our women?
Well, I have two sons, and so I had to face that question. I recall my son had some friends around when they were like in university, and I said to them, "So, how are you going to cope when your first boss is a woman?" And they looked at me as though I'd gone crazy, as if to say, "What are you talking about? My boss? Boss could be a woman?" And I said, "Sure, yes, think about it. How would you cope?" And I had to speak to them about the fact of respect, the business of understanding that women and men have different qualities, maybe, but they all have competencies which can be expressed in different ways. But the bottom line is that each person has to be respected as an individual. And I think for men, they've been brought up on a sort of diet of women to serve. Women are to be subservient in certain ways. And the treating of women as equals is something which they just don't understand. So for instance, today, there was a statistic that came out that during the COVID thing, when men and women were at home together, women still did 80% of the child care. And they said, but how is that possible? When you have both parents at home, why is it both parents working at home? Why is it that the women still have 80% of the child care? It's a matter of learning to share, learning to be partners within a marriage, to respect within the workplace, to so that the whole issue of things like sexual harassment and those things are alien. It should not happen because you've learned how to relate to a woman as an individual who has rights, who demands respect from everyone, you know. So that's what I would say. But it's just it's a matter of respect.
Thank you, Prof. And I see one more question here for you. How has the dynamic changed as it relates to the availability of opportunities for women?
I think over the years the opportunities have grown. I mean, when for instance, when I was at university, the Faculty of Social Sciences was 1 year old. So nobody did economics. I think one person from my group did economics. Things like sociology and all of those things, these just weren't available. So you went to natural sciences, or you went to arts, or you went to medicine. And those were the three areas. So if you didn't do medicine, you went to arts and you were going to become a teacher. You went into science and you were going to become a teacher, or you were going to maybe go into things like being a lab technician, or maybe try and get into medicine later, that sort of thing. Now, with the wide range of opportunities that are there, then you have women able to to choose careers over a very broad range of choices. And so the opportunities are there. What happens, however, is that because the opportunities are there and women are taking them up, you find that women very often do not get the same compensation as men, even in the same profession. And women tend to go into the professions which are lower paid. I'm not sure which it is, if it is that women go into professions which are lower paid, or that the professions are lower paid because women are predominant in that. But for instance, nursing nurses in the United States earn a lot of money. And yet you hardly find men going into nursing, because nursing has been traditionally female. So I'm saying that, we need to embrace the opportunities. So women do physics, go and become engineers, become astrophysicists, do all the things that are available. There are lots more avenues available to you than were available when I was in university. As I say, that was a long, long time ago. But now, so many things you can do.
Thank you very much, Prof. And all right, so Ms. Elsa Leo-Rhynie, I have some questions for you now. That's Chanelle. All right, so I see one here from Shayla. What are your views on the stereotypical view that MUAs or makeup artists have low self-esteem?
Shayla, honestly, stereotypes on the whole for me, I try my best to be complete opposites of whatever stereotype may be. And personally, my makeup brand is compliments Chanel, and the motto is channeling your most confident self. I don't think makeup's supposed to change the way you look. It's just supposed to make you feel more beautiful in your own skin. So I wouldn't agree with that stereotype. I find it actually crazy. First time I'm hearing it. I know most people think makeup artists are full of themselves and what they can do for others. But in my opinion, I do believe makeup should make women feel confidence, not change them, change their appearance, make them look like a whole different person. So I hope I answered your question.
All right, and I have the final question now. So Sheila had a question, but I'm gonna twist it up a little bit, Chanel, to say, do you believe that women are adequately supporting other women? Because I know she spoke about young and older, but do you think women in general are supporting each other?
Prof, you taking this one, or you want me to take this one?
Now that's your question,
I
Chanel.
think, I think, oh, there are lots of horror stories. There are lots of horror stories. There's the saying that a lot of women who climb the ladder, when they get to the top, they kick it over so that nobody else can climb it to get there with them. And yet there are women, and I am one of them, I must say, who has been supported by women all my life. I have had detractors. I mean, people who have made snide comments and sarcastic comments, but I just ignore it. I mean, you know, I just do my thing, just ignore it. So, yes, there are women who are going to try and put hurdles in your way. But the point is that there are also women who are going to be supportive. And I think if you support women, you will find that women will support you. I think so. I think that is another thing that you need to be, as I spoke about the community of womanhood. I think it's important for us to support each other, and that way, I think that what we meet out to others will be meted out to us. Because when people see you supporting others, they will see that this is something which is beneficial to all, and so they will follow suit. But yes, you do have to be careful because there are ways to try to pull you down. But you know, just do what you have to do and ignore the bad things.
Thank you, Professor Leo-Rhynie, and thank you so much, so much, Chanelle Zamore. Both of you added so much value to this forum, and I just want to thank all persons who stuck around throughout the entire forum with us. You know, they asked questions. I see Shayla, I see Kareem, Jade is in the chat. I mean, there's so many names. I don't want to leave out anyone, so I don't want to get push him tonight. But again, just want to say Happy International Women's Day to all the amazing women that we have out there, all the women in the chat, you know, your parents, your moms, your sisters, your every woman in your life. Just a big Happy International Women's Day to them. Again,
Thank
my
you.
name is Brithney Clarke. I had the pleasure of being your hostess with the mostest for this forum. And of course, you know, special commendation to the Elsa Leo-Rhynie off-campus committee for hosting this initiative. Well needed initiative, and it's an opportunity for us to come together, though virtually, just to celebrate something as phenomenal as this. So thank you, ladies, Professor Elsa Leo-Rhynie and Chanelle Zamore. We had Christina Williams earlier, and all of you ladies added so much value, as I said. So
Oh,
do have a wonderful
Brittany.
evening.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Brittany,
you,
for
Brittany.
hosting us, so beautifully,
Yes,
wonderfully.
yes,
Thank you
no
very,
problem.
very much. And thanks to
Thank
Mr.
you.
Porter for pushing me on,
Yes.
for helping me to get on.
Yes,
But
thank you
thanks
so
very
much.
much, Brittany.
You're
You've
welcome.
handled this very well. I
Yes,
really appreciate it. And I've enjoyed being with Chanel and with
yes,
Christina.
thank
And
you.
it really make me feel like an old lady joining a young people's
No,
club.
not like that, not like that. All right, ladies, have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.
Right, Chanel. Take care.